The Chargers defeated the Eagles on Monday Night Football at the hands of Jalen Hurts and his 4 interceptions. So let's get into the game, what happened positive and what happened negative, and what the Chargers will need to do to get a playoff berth in 2025. Let's get into it. The Chargers should thank Jalen Hurts and Cameron Dicker for being 9-4 because they were largely the culprits or the catalyst by which the Chargers were able to get a victory on Monday Night Football. Ironically enough, 5-0 in primetime games this season, which is not an easy feat. But boy, they didn't make this one easy at all. They didn't make it easy at all. This Chargers offense was stuck in neutral for most of the game outside of the first drive, and it was a rough watch. Definitely some positive things came from the defense in large space. The defense and Jalen Hurts being completely off kilter was the main reasons why the Chargers were able to get a 22-19 victory against the Eagles in overtime in SoFi on Monday night. But win is a win. In the words of Dominic Toretto, no matter whether you win by inch or win by a mile, winning is winning, right? So, we'll take the victory, 9 wins, that much closer to the playoff berth. But there are some things to clean up here. There's a really big time things to clean up here. And there are some things that are within the Chargers' control at this particular point in time. So we got to address them. So we'll get into the stats of the game. We'll talk about, what happened in the game, what the positive and negatives were, and ultimately what's going to take for them to get through this murderous row of games here in the next 4 to be able to get into the playoffs, because they take any amount of losses here in the next 4 games, it could be bye-bye playoffs. It is that tight of a race in the AFC right now. Some teams are ascending, some teams are hanging around. Even the Chiefs, who we have to play coming up this weekend, are still not mathematically eliminated. So you can't have any particular room for error for that matter. So we got to get things done. Got to get things done as a team. So we're going to see how things flow. But, overall, talk about the game and what happened. Like I said, week 14, the weekend review. Again, wasn't much to talk about from a football schematic standpoint. This was not a football X's and O's game. This was a gritty game. It was a gritty knockdown, drag out game. It was very physical. Much to how Harbaugh likes to play and how the Eagles are playing in its totality in the last few years. So, it's just one of those things where you just had to have one more play than that last person, right? That ball goes, further down the line and not in the direction where Cam Hart can tip it. If we could be talking about a whole different ball game right now. But again, not gonna cry with spilled milk. A win is a win. But it's a very ugly game to look at in its entirety. Like I said, got the victory 22-19. Much, spent, a lot of time spent on field goals. Let's just say that. A lot of time spent on field goals. 1 touchdown for the Chargers, the first quarter, the rest was field goals. Cameron Dicker was completely perfect. I think it was 5 for 5 on field goals and one extra point. So yeah, man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 field goals. Yep, and an extra point. So that was it. 5 for 5 from extra field goals and 1 extra point. So he was largely, the person that was responsible for most of the points. So yeah, shout out to Cameron Dicker. And I have to say, man, it is definitely a breath of fresh air to have a reliable kicker. If you've been a Chargers fan for quite some time, you know that the kickers in this particular organization have not been great in large space. And again, you might have a guy like, let's go back to Michael Badgley for a few years ago where they called him the money badger, right? It was money, literally money for first part of his tenure. And then, man, right around halfway point, he just got bad and he couldn't kick, consistently to save his life. And he had to move off from him. And he hadn't been consistent since. I don't know if it's a confidence thing with these kickers because they clearly have the leg power and the technique. But it's just the idea. Maybe it's just a confidence thing. Once you lose your confidence as a kicker, it's over for you. I mean, look at Young Wei Koo. He was with the Chargers for a little bit. He didn't really pan out, but went over to Atlanta was balling out. And ultimately, guess what? He started to falter and kicking in the dirt now. Can't even kick the ball, kicking in the dirt. It's just a shame. So, but yeah, so I can't speak enough, enough praises about Cameron Dicker, man. He's definitely a breath of fresh air, and I hope that he will be a Charger for a long time, especially kicking at this clip and kicking at this accurate level. I hope that he continues this run and continues to be the Chargers, I guess you can say, uh, safety net. So definitely looking forward to that. So, but yeah, but he was the man in this game, and without him, Chargers don't win this game at all. Don't win this game at all. I mean, and again to the player team stats, one whole lot to talk about here. Some positive notes. We did win the time of possession, which I underscored in the preview. We had to do that. Won a turnover battle, ironically, 5-3. We lost 2 fumbles and an interception, and they had one lost fumble when he lost 4 interceptions. So that was interesting. By one, didn't win the penalty battle. We had 7 to their 6. Red zone attempts, we had 1 touchdown. There was 0 for 2 in the red zone, so that was positive for the defense in that space. We outrushed them, but that was largely due to Justin Herbert's legs, which we didn't think he was going to run like this game with that hand, but he definitely was the leading rusher. And in total, we rushed for 169. Sacks, they give up 7 sacks to the Eagles. 7. We only got 1 on Jalen Hurts, and they got 7. That's not a recipe for a win in typical fashion. So, take a deep breath on the pass protection. So we'll get into that. Passing yards, they 231. The Eagles 106 for the Chargers. Didn't do much in the pass game because we couldn't protect Herbert. He was constantly under duress and pressure with that hand. 7 sacks again, like I said. Bad business for that. In total yards, they had 365 to our 2275. We ran more plays than them, but they had more yards. So which means they were getting bigger and more chunk plays in a sense. They had 14 drives to our 13. They had 5.5 yards of play versus our 3.9. In total, we had 16 first downs to their 19. So again, they were moving the ball a little bit. They just, like I said, we just had the ball longer, but in large space, they were moving the ball. They just had this untimely interceptions that cost them the game ultimately, because we couldn't keep any points on the board from turnovers. So that's for sure. So lucky, but sometimes, when you play with good skills, good luck will happen. So we'll take it. The player stats are nothing to sneeze at either. Not much to talk about. Like I said, Justin Herbert had 66 yards on the ground. Very bad passing day at the office. Outside of that pass to Mario Hampton for a touchdown. Wasn't much to talk about. Kimani Vidal had the biggest gain of the night with that 60-yard pass out of the backfield. But wasn't much to talk about here. I mean, outside of the fumbles and the interceptions, it was just a bad day. Bad day all around. I mean, the only person that really had a good game was A.J. Brown with 6 catches for 100 yards, but no touchdowns. So, yeah. That's what you had. Saquon Barkley had 20 carries for 122, so that was interesting. 6.1 yards a carry. We'll talk about that and that leaky deep run defense. So we'll get into all of that. But yeah, so definitely some red flags here we got to address. But yeah, I mean, again, a win is a win. So get into the positives real quick. And from week 14, like the Cameron Dicker's accuracy, 5 for 5 for field goals, 1 of extra points. Cannot be understated that he is definitely the player of the game for the offense. Like I said, they won time of possession, which is a good thing. The defense, their takeaways, Dante Jackson, Cam Hart, taking the ball away. Deshaun Hand dropping in coverage and getting the pick. Then Tony Jefferson getting the final pick that sealed the deal with Cam Hart's tip. Defense was definitely opportunistic in taking the ball away and didn't drop those interceptions that we a lot of times do, from defensive players. They dropped those, gimmies. They took them all away this time and didn't leave nothing on the field. So shout out to that. And then just what it boils down to, toughness and grit, man. And this is definitely a different regime when it comes out of Harbaugh era because, coaches in previous regimes, man, you don't get this toughness and this grit and this faith and belief that they can still beat the defending Super Bowl champs. And they rode that grit all the way down into the last gasp, in the red zone, and it got that takeaway to seal the deal. If you don't believe and you don't have, intestinal fortitude, interior toughness, and just overall sheer grit and gut this win out because it was an ugly game all the way around for both teams. Very ugly game. But they definitely gutted it out. And again, if you don't have that, from the top down, from the coaches to the position coaches to the captains to the players, you don't have that toughness and grit. It doesn't flow throughout the locker room. Then this game does not end in the victory. So let's just say it that way. So got to shout out that. But get into the negatives, and there's a lot here. There's a lot here. I left some things off because it's just flat out obvious, right? But like I talked about earlier, the offense is stuck in neutral outside of the first drive, couldn't get anything going, largely due to the fact that they give up 7 sacks. The pass protection was abysmal. It was bad and it got worse when Trey Pipkins went out with an injury. Brought in Bobby Hart, which I thought was a mistake. I thought they should have kept Trevor Penning in at right tackle. If you saw my video about how they can fix things from the O-line perspective, that was one of my combinations. Jamar Sally at left tackle, Penning at right tackle, and leave the interior the way it is. And if they ran with that, I think they would have better success in protecting Herbert. Outside of Mekhi Becton and Bradley Bozeman, they were just porous picking up blitzes and blocking anybody Monday night. It was horrible. It was horrible. And again, this not something you wanted to see from a offense that just had their quarterback hand broken. So yeah, it was a rough watch. It was very cringeworthy. Very cringeworthy. I'm just glad that Justin Herbert didn't get hurt any further. But again, we're just fingers crossed, praying every week that he doesn't, because he's taking a lot of hits. He's the second most hit quarterback in the league, and that's not a good stat. It's not a good stat to have. But yeah, that was one problem. Clearly, 7 sacks. And what's funny to me, no Jalen Carter, number one. And then their pass rush isn't as lethal as some of the ones we faced. We didn't see this much pressure against the Steelers, for instance. In other places, a lot of teams had better personnel holistically across the line, and they were just giving up pressure after pressure. It was madness. It was madness. But that was a problem. Wide receivers not creating separation, falling down, just being completely and utterly locked up by Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell and Adoree Jackson and a lot of spaces. I mean, just no way to throw the ball. I mean, not that Kirby had a lot of time to throw anyway, but they were covering him enough, to the point where the pass rush was getting home very quickly. So, no separation, getting no quick openings for the quarterback to get rid of the ball. And that was a problem. He had no way to throw the ball. Sometimes he had to hold it. Pressure got there quick. Sack after sack after sack. And from a defense perspective, run defense was still leaky, especially the right side. The outside run defense as a whole was his problem. Like, we shored up the interior rush defense for the most part. Terry Tartan, Jamar Caldwell running at them. I think I talked about this before. Teams are not running at them anymore. They're running around them, or running, I guess you could say, to their side. They're walling them off and running, angling, towards off tackles or the outside tackles, tight ends area. They're running outside. They're not running interior anymore. They realize the strength of this run defense is Terry Tartan and Jamar Caldwell. So they're not running at them. They're not running at them, and that's getting success being had on the outside, depending on who's on the edge. They will pick and choose to see, if Bud Dupree, ironically, is on one side, they'll run at his side and have success. So yeah, that's the problem. The run defense outside the tackle box is the problem. It really is. And the pass rush went missing for the most part. I mean, they had some pressures on Jalen Hurts to cause some, errant throws, but they didn't sack him at one time. He got off, a couple of scrambles here and there. There was a problem. And I said, early on in the season that needed to be cleaned up. They kind of let their rears like we had with, and you got a mobile quarterback. You're dealing with a mobile quarterback, so you gotta have that, tight and ready to be able to unleash that pass rush to keep him in the pocket. And again, they went missing for the large parts of this game. And when times when you really had to have a sack, prime example, that 3rd and 16 they converted in overtime. You had to have a pass rush there. You didn't have one. I mean, 3rd and 16, you got to get after the quarterback, and you shouldn't have to, pressure or rush extra guys to get home. You just got to win there and got to get them off the field. And it didn't happen, obviously, but thankfully, it ended the way it ended. But that could have been a recipe for a disaster. So that's another problem. But getting into, what they need to do in order to make it to the playoffs, because these things are going to be paramount in order for them to ultimately make the playoffs. Because these things don't happen, it's going to be a problem, and it's going to be a rough road trying to get past the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Texans, and the Broncos. Starting with offense, I think they need to start leading on the spread run game. I think they need to start going 10 and 11 personnel, multiple wide receivers out on the field. Spread them out, going trips in one side or another. Spread them out, get the defenders to stretch the field and keep the box lighter and start to run inside again. Get Omarion Hampton and come out of it out downhill in the interior, with behind Becton and Bozeman and Zion and those guys and Penning, because I'm going to say that in my next part of this that Penning needs to start. Bobby Hart needs to go. He might have had a flash in the pan or run of 1 or 2 games where he wasn't horrible, right? But he was completely abysmal. completely abysmal on Monday night. It was bad. It was bad. I think him and Becton and Soler gave up the most pressures. And this is a funny thing. Becton gave up 8, Soler gave up 8, and he gave up and Bobby Hart gave up 6, and Bobby Hart didn't even play the whole game. So that's tragic. That is really tragic. So I think Bobby Hart needs to go. I really do. I think Trevor Penning will be better suited to start at right tackle, which isn't saying a great deal, but I think he'll be more stable and give us a better fit in the run game. I think that he'll run block better than the other guys that they got at right tackle. So I think that needs to happen. But spread them out. Don't limit these power run sets. Like, don't bring these multiple tight ends and going 13 personnel with 3 tight ends and a running back or a fullback in the backfield, things of that nature, because teams know what you're going to do. They know that you're not throwing the ball to Scott Matlock and Tucker Fisk and Will Dissly. They know they're there to block. You bring in Trevor Penning as a third extra lineman. They know you want to run the ball at this point. So they're going to load the box up and stop you. And we're not talented enough as the O-line to get the ball moving despite all that. So you need to lean on the idea of going to the spread run game. Running inside zone from pistol and shotgun and from spread formations. Get them spread out, get those DBs and safeties out to the boundary in the field sides and keep the box light, 5 to 6 guys and run the ball downhill. Get some duo blocking, push the line, get a Mario Hampton, run it downhill with that 220 pounds and get Kamani Vidal on the edge. I think that works better. And now that'll keep, them honest. And if they want to cheat and move a few more guys in the box, you can throw screens out to the outside with Quentin Johnson and Ladd McConkey and those guys and get them out in space. But yeah, I think Greg Roman needs to add that nuance to his playbook. I think that needs to happen because the power run game is being shut down. In a large space, they haven't moved the ball or got anywhere downhill in the power run game. It's just not working. We don't have the personnel for it. And they know it's coming. So you have to do something different. I think limiting the power personnel and going spread run in a run game perspective, because I'm gonna be honest, I think that the Chargers need to lean on the run game and their defense to win these football games. You can't have Justin Herbert with his O-line dropping back, throwing the ball 30, 40 times a game, especially with his hand. So you got to be able to lean on the basics and the genesis of what Harbaugh is running the ball and playing solid defense. Lean on that, and that's going to win you ball games. So they got to get back to doing that and getting the ball ran in a different space and different formations, in spread formations rather than in power. Also getting it back out in space. You saw what happened when you got Mario Hampton out in space, what Kamani Vidal out in space. Get these guys on these linebackers and get them in space, short screen passes, quick dump balls, angle routes, things of that nature. And let them work the middle of the field and down the field. I think their run after catch ability will be utilized in a big way. And I think they can get things done in that space. I think you need to utilize the quick check downs and get the ball out quick and get them in space and let them work and move the chains. I think that's great for this offense. That will give another nuance to this, attack that will ultimately, keep defensive coordinators off balance. I think you need to do that as well. And ultimately, the low-hanging fruit is protect Justin Herbert, man. Yeah, do your best to protect him. And I think a starting point to that is start Trevor Penning at right tackle. Like I said, the Bobby Hart experiment and anybody else outside of who's there already is a dud. It's a dud. So I would say definitely, move Penning to the right tackle. That's the best combination of O-line you're going to get with the people you have left. And do your best to protect Justin Herbert. Do the things that I underscored earlier about running the ball and getting the ball out quick and things of that nature. But him having to drop back on 3rd and 6 or longer is going to be problematic because the pass rush is going to come hot and heavy. And the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Texans, and the Broncos all have great pass rushes. There's no team that doesn't have great pass rushers left on the schedule. So you got to do what you got to do to protect him, because if he gets hit one bad time, the season is over no matter what you do. I said it before, I'll say it again. But defensively, what you need to do is improve the outside run defense, like I talked about earlier. The outside run defense, especially to the defensive right side, the offensive left, is bad. It's leaky. We talking, old pipe, rusty pipe leaky. It's bad. You got to shore that up, and you got to maybe move personnel around and keep things more balanced and rundowns. But you have to fix that run defense on the edge because people see it. They started to rear its ugly head against the Commanders. Commanders ran outside a lot. The Colts ran everywhere. The Eagles ran everywhere. Outside they ran. Saquon Barkley got all his yards outside primarily. So the outside run defense is bad. You got to fix that up. The interior defense is good. Outside is bad. You have to hold that edge, play at the edge and get those guys up front and get them, stretching them out towards the sideline and not downhill. And maybe move the corners up a little bit too, because you already got the corners playing off at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 yards. They're already out of the play. You already, basically got, a 5 to 6 yard game before they even can make a play on the runner. So, those some things you need to change personnel wise to hopefully make this run defense a little bit better, because they're running outside at a large clip. Any and every team. The Jacksonville Jaguars did it too. So it has to be cleaned up. Move Thule and Macker and those guys around, who's your best edge defenders, and stop that edge rush, because if you don't, people are going to lean on it, and it's going to be a problem, and it's going to cost you a game. And secondly, the three-headed rush monster that they haven't really used yet. And this is based upon the fact that we got to face the mobile quarterback in the first part of this last four and the last part. Bo Nix and Patrick Mahomes in particular. Dak Prescott a little bit, CJ Stroud, but I think that the divisional quarterbacks at this point are runners. So I think what you need to do, what he should have did this against Jalen Hurts, but I think that they got to figure this out at this point. Ode Offway is your best and fastest pass rusher, from a speed perspective. When I say best, I mean best is he's his fastest and most capable at doing the spiral. So you put Thule and Mac on the edges, let them rush off the edge and create a wall around a quarterback. And then you kind of put Owe in a mush rush situation. He kind of spying the quarterback on heavy pass downs. And then once they collapse the pocket and the lane starts to come open, that's the lane Ode will fill. He fills that lane either by rushing or spying the quarterback, and the quarterback tries to escape out, and he tackles him for a loss or a sack or whatever the case may be, but you don't let him out the pocket. The scramble will create extra plays, because Mahomes is going to try to extend plays and create that, air quote, Mahomes magic. So if you don't let him out the pocket to do that, then you're in good business. But get on third downs, get Mac and Thule rushing off the edge hard at these tackles, especially with the tackles being shaky with the Chiefs. Get them rushing at them, then let Owe be the spy and allow him to kind of travel with Mahomes or Nix or whoever, and get after the quarterback. And if the quarterback stays in the pocket or he's contained in the pocket, there's no areas to rush out of there, then he goes in a delay rush. But you have to do that in order to be able to corral the quarterback and don't allow them outside the pocket to extend plays, because that's killing us too. It has been killing us, and they got Owe for that particular reason, in my opinion, to be not only a speed guy off the edge, but a guy that can track down quarterbacks. And you need to maximize the potential there. So that's one thing they need to do as well. And I think that's a great idea. And lastly, middle of the field zone defense, man. People are killing us over the middle of the field. Slants, over routes, deep in cuts, things of that nature. That second and third level of the defense is giving up a lot of yards in the middle. Like I said, Devontae Smith, not Adams. Devontae Smith killed us on the 3rd and 16. Dallas Goedert was eating us up in the middle of the field. There was other plays open that Jalen didn't hit, but there was a lot of leakiness in the middle of the field. You got to tighten that up by some means. Extra personnel, going extra safeties. They got better guys that are better in coverage. You have to do Jesse, but that has to be cleaned up, because this is a problem. It's a big time problem. And I think that the middle of the field zone, people understanding and watching film that this defense is leaky in the middle, they're going to attack it. They're going to attack it. So you got to clean that up. But if they do all these things, man, I like their chances going forward. But these things have to happen in order for the offense to move and the defense to get stops. Point blank and period. So we'll see how things roll. But from injury report perspective, not much to report here yet. I think they're getting back to the fact that they played Monday, to getting back to practice on Wednesday, which is today. So we'll see how things check out from injury perspective. But only noteworthy things that really can underscore at this moment was clearly Justice has a broken hand. That's going to be what it is. With those pins and screws in it and that cast he's wearing on it. Trey Pipkins is a TBD, but it's looking like he might not come back this season, based upon the preliminary reports. But we'll see. And then Cal Kennard and Keandre Slater-Smith were healthy scratches for the game, so I'm just not sure what's going on with them. I really believe that Keandre Lambert-Smith, Darius Davis did get hurt in the game too as well, but he kind of came in and out. So we'll see how things roll with that. But I think they should bring KLS back to return kicks. I really do. I think we need some more juice there, because I don't think Darius Davis, with him being previously injured, is the same guy. I just don't believe it. I think KLS with his speed can be an asset there. Having maybe him and Kamani Vidal returning kicks and punts for the team will do better for the team than having Darius Davis do it. Because Darius Davis is light in frame. I've never liked guys that are really light in frame taking hits. I think they take hits and they fumble. So I think having KLS back there will be healthy for the team and maybe provide a spark or some juice. We'll see, but I like that move if he's capable. Let me say it that way. We'll see how things would grow with injury report, but this is a light list regardless. Way better than what it was a few weeks ago. We get into the last 4 games of the season, like I talked about. We got the Chiefs, got Dallas all the way, Texas at home, and the Broncos on the road for the last game of the season. So it's murderous row, and all these teams are vying for playoff spots. One team is certainly in. Other 2 teams are Texas are vying for it. So are the Chiefs and Dallas, and nobody's mathematically eliminated. So they're going to fight, and they're going to fight hard, and we got to fight with them in order to secure our spot in the playoffs. Right now, we're in, but if you don't take care of these stretch of games, you're going to be out. So that's it is what it is. Got to take care of business. So hopefully we can at least go 3-1, maybe 4-0 in this stretch, and then we can ride into the playoffs. But we'll see, one game at a time. But if you're looking for the Electric Shock Podcast in any space, any time, man, hit me up on any social media platform, Electric Shock Pod on all platforms. Hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Let the YouTube algorithm know we're doing big things out here. Hit me up on any social media platforms if you got any questions for Chargers News. And we'll be back to preview the Chiefs game this coming Friday. So look out for that. Look out for all our other content on the channel. And you got to do one thing and one thing well. You always got to remember to boat up.